July 20th, martial arts star Bruce Lee dies in Hong Kong at age 32. Bruce Lee had died 6 days ahead of the release of Enter the Dragon, a film that would turn him into the first Chinese actor to become a bona fide Hollywood star. But how is it possible that this most powerful man, who many believe to be an immortal Superman, could have died so young and so suddenly? The phrase "trace of a woman and trace of drugs" led to the start of rumors quickly spreading throughout Hong Kong of Bruce Lee's family hiding something. So how did Bruce Lee really die? Okay. Buckle up, because we are heading back to the summer of 1973 to discover the true nature of Bruce Lee's demise, and we'll show you precisely how it went down. Bruce Lee and his family were in Hong Kong for the first half of the year, where Bruce was working on 2 films, finishing up Enter the Dragon and filming his new movie, Game of Death. Raymond Chow, the founder of Golden Harvest, a Hong Kong-based film production company, produced those 2 films. On July 20th, at approximately 8:30 in the morning, Raymond and Bruce were the best of friends. BP Lee woke up, and his regular morning routines took about 45 minutes. He would stretch for a while, do some cardio on a homemade stationary bike, practice Jeet Kune Do and lift weights. His mornings would be filled with intensity, but never to the point of exhaustion. 10:30 a.m. Lee sets up on the script of Game of Death at Golden Harvest with Raymond Chow. At some point around that time, Lee consumed a small quantity of hash because he thought cannabis opened his mind more. In the 1970s and 1980s, chewing cannabis was all the rage in Hong Kong, especially among wealthy locals. 1 p.m. Bruce Lee hopped into the red Mercedes-Benz, drove to 67 Beacon Hill Road, where his mistress lived in a 1-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor. Raymond Chow introduced 26-year-old Taiwanese actress Betty Ting Pei to Bruce. It was apparently in Hong Kong he discovered not a lot of people knew about Bruce's off-the-side relationships. The book notes that Bruce Lee had arrived to take some more hash, and he and Betty had some sex. Bruce and Betty were scheduled to go into town for dinner with Raymond Chow and George Liselby, a Hollywood actor he was trying to book for a guest spot. Only a few hours before he was supposed to leave for dinner, Bruce had a headache, according to Raymond Chow, who showed up at Betty's apartment to pick up both Bruce and Betty at 7:30 p.m. for the evening meal, in his recent flick Game of Death 6 p.m. It was finally time to leave, but Bruce's headache was getting worse. Betty administered Bruce a water pill again, which is a very common prescription pill, and at 7:45 p.m. Bruce said he wanted to take a nap and get some rest. Raymond Chow rides for the dinner with George Lazenby solo. The 3 agreeable Bruce and Betty would join, as soon as Bruce mends. In between 8:15 and 9:30 p.m. from the restaurant, Raymond Chow phoned Betty number 2 times, wanted to know when they would be joining them. First time Betty said Bruce is asleep. It was the second time she said Bruce was still sleeping, but she was going to wake him up, worried about disturbing him. Betty opened it slowly, crept into the bedroom, dropped beside him and whispered, "Bruce, Bruce." He didn't respond. She shoved his shoulder and spoke a bit more loudly, "Bruce, Bruce." But he still didn't wake up. Panic rising, she shook him and shouted, "Bruce, Bruce." Betty was so distraught that she called Raymond back at the restaurant. She couldn't wake him up. Crackhead Raven, she told her to come downstairs, then sped across town to Betty's apartment, where she was handing out flyers. When Chow entered the apartment, he saw the near-naked Bruce Lee sprawled out on Betty's mattress, motionless. Chow felt like it was too late. His star was already dead. Okay, at this point I want to try and think about what was in the mind of Mr. Chow. The most famous man in Hong Kong was dead in his mistress's bed. And the 2 of them were the sole witnesses. The scandal would engulf them. The press would blame them. It might spell the end of their careers, possibly place them at legal risk. If Raymond's original objective was to save Bruce Lee's life, his short-term goal was now black and white plain. Bruce Lee had to die in the same bed next to his mistress as A. Department Chow instructed Betty to contact her own physician, Dr. Shu. Dr. Shu tried to resuscitate Bruce for 10 minutes when he arrived. No success. Raymond Chow probably had explained the seriousness of the situation to Dr. Shu and begged him to drive Bruce Lee's body to Baptist Hospital, where Dr. Shu was then employed, and just a half-mile away in order to minimize the number of witnesses. Instead, Dr. Shu opted to call an ambulance. to treat a man who had collapsed and who insisted that the patient be taken to Queen Elizabeth Hospital 25 minutes away rather than to the much closer Baptist, because he didn't want to bring radioactive scandal to his place of employment. The two paramedics and ambulance driver arrived approximately 7 minutes after the call at around 10:30 p.m. The patient was neither breathing nor had a pulse, the paramedics said. They applied CPR and artificial oxygen. Patient did not change. Bruce was carried to the ambulance by paramedics. Raymond Chow and Dr. Su jumped in back with them. Just past 11:30 p.m., telephones throughout Hong Kong began ringing with the news. At 32, Bruce Lee was dead. The cause of death was not known. The autopsy will later show that Bruce Lee died of cerebral edema. Brain swelling, most likely from an allergic reaction from the pain med Betty gave to Bruce. 25,000 of them had attended the funeral ceremony in Hong Kong, and 3 days later, Linda Eicher buried this beloved husband of hers, Bruce Lee, in Seattle, where they had first fallen in love and started a life together, when life was simple, where they were the happiest. So here's the real story of Bruce Lee's death. This is how it was. Okay, thanks for watching. You like this video? Then please thumbs up, and that you also hit that notification bell, and you won't miss the new episodes. //